Hello guys, if you don't know who I am, my name is Ofente and I am your book bear, Ofente MDK on Instagram and the Twitter machine, so you know what it do, you know what it does. Welcome to my channel if you are new here, and I'm really excited about this book. If this is your first time joining me, the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is subscribe. Please subscribe, guys. We're on the way to 600 subscribers. It's my second video, my second upload of the year. We are so close. Like we just need to, you know, just. So in this week's video, I am reviewing Tsitsi Dangarembga's book, Nervous Conditions. Now, as you can see, I've made a few notes inside the book, which is always a good thing. Funny story. So a couple of weeks ago, I was actually approached on Instagram by a representative from the BBC Book Club, and she asked me to submit questions basically regarding nervous conditions because I had posted about it on my page the first time when I actually started reading it, which was sometime last year. And this is a reread. So the first time I actually completed the book, I was in first year. That was 2014. Now I'm not in first year anymore. I'm definitely done with university. I'll leave it in my link tree where you can have a listen to the interview, which it was really great. People from all over the world got the opportunity to ask the author questions. The amazing thing about this book is it's actually the first book published by a black Zimbabwean woman in the United Kingdom. Actually published first in the UK before it was published in Zimbabwe. It was published for the first time in 1988, and now over 20 years later, here we are. This is a spoiler video, so if you don't want to know what happens, plot, whatever, you don't want to know about the ending, you just don't want to know, don't watch this video. Stop right now. But don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, liked, comment, and just let me know when you plan to actually read the book, okay? Nervous Conditions is about a young girl. Her name is Tambu for short, and she's just moving through the world. I'm not quite sure how old she is at the beginning of the book, but it just starts with a bang. Like the first line of the book is literally, I want to read it word for word. I was not sorry when my brother died. And then the first line you read, you're like, whoa, who is this girl? What is she saying? Why isn't she sorry that her brother died? And the author actually said that she had written the book and then she went back to the beginning because she wanted that impact. About Tambu, young girl, she's born into a poor family. She has no choice but to educate herself in order for her to see a better life for herself and her family. So what happens is she has an older brother. His name is Namo, and Namo is quite bright at school. He does quite well, and he's the eldest out of 4 kids. So it's Namo, Tambudza, and they're 2 younger sisters at the beginning of the book. They later have another brother who's born after Namo dies. Anybody from an African background understands the importance. I don't necessarily think it's an African thing though. I think it's a legacy thing. So this idea of having the boy child to continue the family name, it's a big deal for a lot of families, but particularly I know from my personal experience in the African culture. Tambudza is wanting to educate herself. She wants to emancipate herself through education. At some stage her parents run out of money and they say, you know what, Tambu, you're gonna have to stay at home and help your mom. Your brother's the one who's going to school. Unfortunately, you can't go to school, we can't afford it. So Tambu comes up with this great idea to farm her own millies and then ultimately sell the millies so that she can earn enough money to go to school. But later on she finds out that her older brother Namo is sabotaging her and stealing the millies when she's not on the farm and selling them, or actually not even selling them, but giving them away to kids at school, at church. She finds out at church that Namo has betrayed her in this way. She actually starts fighting with him physically. Then she jumps onto him and then she just, it becomes a scene. The kids at church are like, fight, 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 like gassing it up because now it's like exciting that, you know, siblings are fighting. People love drama for some reason, so you know the vibes. But yeah, that's the moment, the turning point for Tambu when she realizes that, listen, I don't think I actually want anything to do with my brother. Like, sure, he's gonna be around and stuff like that, but I'm just not even gonna acknowledge him. I won't speak to him. I won't, like, he'll be there, but I don't have to engage with him, which is a really sad moment for me in the book because I think that I just don't understand, why did Namu even have to do that? Like, I'm still not sure, but his personality's got a very difficult personality. I think he had a level of jealousy. I think he also didn't want Tambo to succeed. He wanted to be the bright spark in the family, the one who's the educated one. I would have understood if Tambo getting educated meant that he couldn't be educated, but he doesn't care. One of the teachers at the church after the altercation with Namo, her brother, that listen, this is what I'm trying to do, this is why we're fighting, and she tells him the whole story, and he decides, okay, I'll take you into town and you can sell the millies and then you can go to school that way. So she ends up going to town, she gets the money the way she gets it. After she starts going to school, something happens to Namo, and Namo then is unable to continue at school. Now, just for context sake, Namo in the space that Tambudza was working towards going to school, and Namo already at school, Tambo and Namo's uncle, who goes by Baba Mukuru in the book, it comes to the family and they have a serious conversation. He sits the family down and he says, listen, our family is in trouble, and he says that the only people that are not necessarily doing well is your branch of the family. So I have this idea that I want to uplift you guys. I want to give you an opportunity to do better, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite Namo is now Tambudza's older brother, to come to his school, where he happens to be a headmaster in town Umtali, and he gets an opportunity to learn separate, like far from the farm, where he doesn't have to walk to school every day, where things are just easier for him. So after that, one day Namo mysteriously doesn't come home and he passes away. Now Tambo has the opportunity to go to the school at the mission, because Baba Mukuru is very adamant that he wants to uplift this side of the family, and because there is no older boy, Tambo is the next person in line, because it goes boys and then it goes girls. That is just the nature of patriarchy. And also at this point, you've got to understand that this book was sent in the 1970s, where I think the world is becoming a little bit more progressive depending on where you are in the world. Tambo grew up in rural Rhodesia at the time, which is now Zimbabwe. Just covering the themes now because the camera just cut, so I had to just do something quickly to bring us back, but we're back now. So yeah, we were just discussing the themes. That's civilizing mission, capitalism, status, black tax, progression, at what cost? Like, okay, you're going to progress, you're going to become better, but what does that mean for your culture? What do you have to do to navigate these new spaces that you're going to occupy because of you progressing? Life and death, mental health, specifically in the black community. I really love how the author touched on this at the end of the book with Nyasha, who is Tambo's cousin, has something like a nervous breakdown or psychotic break, which, you know, nervous breakdown, nervous conditions, just consider that. Punny, family and the role it plays in the way that you're socialized. So what your sorry, I just got a message. I actually should have put this on flight mode so I don't get distracted. The role it plays, as well as how you're socialized, and also how you view the world. Your family plays a critical role actually in how you view the world, because a lot of the things that you inherit from your family, that's good things, and even potentially trauma, lead to how you interact with the rest of the world. So eating disorders are also something that is touched on the book. Nyasha actually has an eating disorder, and we can talk about Nyasha's eating disorder as something that is physical manifestation of what she goes through as being a part of the diaspora. You know, she's a black girl and she's been brought up, and she's been born in Rhodesia, and then she goes to England when her father and her mother are obtaining their masters, and she comes back and she's kind of more socialized into the English way of doing things. Now she's trying to navigate the space and her identity as this hybrid. I still feel like blackness shouldn't necessarily be quantified, but yes, people who view themselves as more black than you, or more in touch with their culture, how they view you when you occupy this space of just being like in this liminal space in between. Because I think that with every identity there's tension, you know, whether you're from a working class background or you are super privileged, race, culture, monetary standing, your upbringing, the language you speak, how you speak the language you speak, your culture, they all intersect to create this identity. But then moving forward from that, how do you consolidate your identity in relation to the rest of the world. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a theme really well discussed in the book. I like that a lot. Eating disorders, this coconut narrative, just coconuts, black on the outside, white on the inside. I think we've just discussed that pretty in depth now. And lastly, survival. So those are just some of the themes that I've identified. Naturally, there'll be more themes. The next thing I'd like to discuss in the book are the characters and the character development. So we've got the main protagonist, and the book is written in the first person narrator, but it also intersects with the omniscient narrator. So why I say first person and omniscient narrator? First person because it's written for the most part from Tambudzai's perspective, right? However, we do get insight into what everybody else is thinking in the book. How it's just that Tambu is the one who's telling us that, where she might say, okay, so my cousin Nyasha was this and this a person, however she always felt isolated because the kids at school never viewed her as one of them. So that's something that Nyasha didn't necessarily tell Tambu, but she knows. So that's where this omniscient idea comes in, where we can see into the heads of the different characters in the book, right? Chido is Nyasha's brother, her older brother, who is also navigates the space of being not black enough or not white enough, depending on where you are. However, Chido and Nyasha deal with their identity very differently. Chido, growing up in a very patriarchal family with his dad, Baba Mukuru, who's the patriarch, what he says goes, with his mom, who's, you know, very intelligent, however she plays the role, and she speaks about how she Tambudzai speaks about how she knows how to navigate, like what to do to get just enough. With patriarchy and with all these different social structures, people will encounter them differently, whereas Nyasha, who is just head on, and she says, why must I do this, and she's kind of like fight the power, and she won't back down. However, she is suffocated. Now, in terms of Tambu is the docile young daughter who grew up in the village, who does everything that she says. However, she does have that sense of rebellion inside her. She, though, doesn't often rebel in a way that is apparent to everybody else, up until her parents' wedding, when she decides that she doesn't want to go, and she makes it clear, and she does not go. She does not attend her parents' wedding. However, apart from that, Tambu is very reserved. She's the perfect African daughter, only speaks when spoken to, can't relate. If it had to come down to it, am I more Nyasha than Tambu? I think I have a little bit of both personally, because I definitely have my moments where I just stay in my lane, child, like, you know, and other things. But at other points, I might definitely speak up, and I have definitely gotten in trouble for saying certain things that maybe I shouldn't have, that were out of turn. Tambu, so I definitely see as Tambu now as the protagonist, I definitely see her progression from the beginning. She's a young girl who's just trying to get to school. She gets to school, she takes the opportunity with both hands, she makes it happen for herself. Then after her brother dies, she gets to go to the mission, where she's now able to attend school. And she continues it. She doesn't stop there. She takes this opportunity and she continues to use these things to elevate herself. Like every opportunity is a stepping stone to her for something greater. And she never forgets that fact. It's always replaying in her mind that I'm here because I need to excel, because this is my only chance, because I want better for myself and my family, so I'm gonna kill it. Like every opportunity I get, I'm gonna go for it. And I love that about her. Like, you know, I just love a girl who goes after what she wants. To discuss all the characters in depth will be quite extensive, but she's just this mother who's just, as mothers are, fearful, and then it becomes worse when Namu dies, and she feels like Tambu is at the mercy of this Englishness, this whiteness, the effect of colonization and what it's going to do to her daughter. She wants to progress, she wants to be educated, but at what cost? Now, for me, when it comes to Tambu's mother, I understand that she's worried and she's apprehensive for her children to occupy these white spaces of education and progression. However, I feel like to some degree there's a level of jealousy from her mother's perspective, because I think as much as she's aware of the negative effects that this has, but she also sees what she's also dissatisfied with her own life, and she wishes that she has these opportunities. So there's just like a tinge of bitterness when it comes to how she engages with her children's education and these opportunities for them to grow, because she says that she's quite miserable. Tambo's father is a mess, Jeremiah a damn fool more than anyone, and he's just a flop like of a person, you know, these men that just kind of like do their own thing, they drink, they don't put their family first. I think through the women in the book, Dangarembga does a really good job at exploring the idea of patriarchy and how that affects women in different social standings and at different parts in their lives. So patriarchy exists and how it affects you, and also the response to it, depending on the type of person that you are and how you choose to respond. In the book, as much as Tambo finds herself reliant on her uncle to educate her, she is doing something that a lot of the other women in the book, the older women, are not able to do, which is become independent. She's independently uplifting herself and growing. And arguably, I think that it's different. Patriarchy manifests itself differently depending when you are in different spaces. So when you're a young girl and you're being brought up versus being a wife, so now you're an adult, and this is this time when you actually have to be making your own decisions, but you're bound by what your husband says or whatever the case may be. Whereas Tambo is a young girl. If her uncle's running her life, she was still going to have to listen to what her mom has to say. Okay, so we've spoken a lot. My mouth is so tired. Like, I haven't spoken for this long in a long time, and anybody who knows me knows that I love to talk. Guys, before we go into the last part of this review, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't liked, please like. I'm trying to get this channel up. Like, City Girls are trying to be up, Book Bay is trying to be up. So I think I'm going to start with what I disliked about the book. Now, just a general reminder, this is the second time I'm reading this book. So the first time I read it, I had a little bit of a different perspective. I was fresh out of high school. I was much younger. I was 19. Now I'm 25. So that's 7 years ago, because I'm turning 26 this year. And I think that it was a good book. I liked the book. However, I found myself getting so angry, like when I would encounter some of the themes surrounding patriarchy and also relationship dynamics in the book. I found myself being aggravated by how the women found themselves in these marriages that were just oppressive. Like, I don't think that they ever really, the women in the book, had a safe space to land. We see though in the relationship that develops between Nyasha and Tambo that they give each other the safe space, and then when it comes to Nyasha, when it comes to Tambo's mom and her sister Lucia, they give each other the safe space to land. It also emphasizes the idea of sisterhood. Another thing that I liked about the book is we see everything through Tambo's eyes. She's very mature. It's just measured. It's well considered. She's not irrational. She's very intelligent and wise. I think wise beyond her years. That's another thing that I think about when I read Nervous Conditions, and I realize that this girl is barely 13. So a lot happens in the space of 208 pages. It's a lot of story. What I disliked about the book was just some of it was a little bit triggering for me, particularly when it comes to how the women were negatively treated by their men. That's something that is just always like a triggering topic for me. I think particularly because I just never ever want to find myself in such a situation. And like, I think back to moments when I might have found myself in a situation, and also beyond like me at the personal level, like seeing what's happening in South Africa, gender-based violence, which is another topic that is brushed on in the book, this idea of gender-based violence. That was triggering, just knowing what we're going through as a country and what I've seen and perceived. And as an adult, like, it's terrifying being a grown woman and thinking that one day I would like to find a companion. I am a straight woman. I would like to find a male companion to spend the rest of my life with, but who can you trust? Because it's just so terrifying. So that was triggering to me in the book. This idea of when you can be with somebody and they can be completely different, and then you marry them and then they just switch up on you. I hate that, like assuming these gender roles, and why that sometimes feels like it's very oppressive for women is also very triggering for me. So I guess that's something that I disliked. I also found sometimes when I was reading, I like the writing style. However, in terms of the expression, I found myself being lost in some of the descriptiveness. I think that a lot of things, like, so how it's written, oftentimes there's a topic, an overarching topic, and then it's zoned in. Now, while zoning in, sometimes I lose my train of thought, like, child, what am I reading? But so that's something that I didn't really love about the book. That's pretty much it. It took me a while to finish the book the second time around. I don't know if that's because of me losing my train of thought or losing focus while reading the book, or if it was because of the fact that, like, there's the suspense element is not there, because I know what's happening in the book. So maybe that's the difficult part. Like the first time when I was reading it, I think I was more drawn into the book. However, second time around, it was kind of like, I know what's gonna happen, now let it happen, you know. And I also was going through my own reading slump during and prior to reading the book, so I think that played a large part in it. But let me know what you thought about the book if you have read it, and what are you reading, that type of thing. Anything bookish, anything really. If you want to tell me that my makeup looks bomb, let me know, boo. But that's it for me.